Russia sold Alaska to the States in 1867. It's called the Alaska Purchase, but some Russians still question whether the deal was legit. In fact, people are so confused, they address President Putin.
Скажите, есть ли в планах присоединение Аляски к России? Скажите, есть ли в планах присоединение Аляски к России?
Here's what the president replied.
Зачем вам Аляска?
But if the question keeps rising over and over again, there must be some reason. Or not. In 1799, Emperor Paul I of Russia chartered the Russian-American company to create trade monopoly in Alaska. The company was based on the example of the British East India Company. The Russian-American company was allowed to trade whatever, with whomever, and even annex new desired territories. The Russian-American company focused on the Northern Pacific. By mid-19th century, the Russian-American company's stocks were one of the most expensive on the St. Petersburg exchange, going for twice their notional value, a price equivalent to a clerk's salary, yearly salary. The company brought generous income, and even the royal family owned stocks. But come spring 1857, and Grand Duke Konstantin Nikolaevich, the emperor's younger brother, writes to the Minister of Foreign Affairs, "We should use the current excess of funds in the US coffers to our advantage and sell them our Northern American colonies." One of the main arguments the Grand Duke put forward was that in a case of a US or British expansion, Russia would be unable to protect its territories abroad. And so it was a perfect moment to gain at least something from Alaska. That same year, Grand Duke Konstantin Nikolaevich meets the French Emperor Napoleon III. They discuss a possibility to trade Russian railway stocks at the French exchange. The French ask the Russians to buy some of their stocks in support, but the Russian treasury is drained. Remember this fact, because we're going to discuss it later. Very few contemporaries know of the Alaska sale. All discussions are led in top secrecy. In a strange turn of events, the Russian-American company's stocks start plummeting following Grand Duke Konstantin Nikolaievitch's letter. In the wake of the deal, they are worth less than their notional amount. The final decision is taken during a secret meeting. Apart from Emperor Alexander II, the following people were present: Grand Duke Konstantin Nikolaevich, the Minister of Finance, Michael von Reuten, Minister of the Navy, Nikolai Krabbe, Foreign Affairs Minister Alexander Gorchakov, and Russia's chargé d'affaires in Washington, Baron Edward de Sturkel. Given the green light, Sturkel travels to meet with US Secretary of State William H. Seward and then President Andrew Johnson. And on the 30th of March 1867, Sturkel and Seward signed the deal that sold Alaska to the States for $7,200,000. Once the news breaks, people's opinions unite under the umbrella of general confusion. The Americans are puzzled on why they even need Seward's icebox, while Russians are upset that Alaska sold so cheaply. Immediately, everyone starts talking about how Napoleon sold Louisiana for $15 million. And Emperor Alexander II and his entourage, they kept their motives for the decisions in such secrecy that there are no mentions in memoirs or diaries of anyone involved. Historians, however, have several theories. Here's the first. Russia lost the Crimean War to France, UK, and the Ottoman Empire, and it's so broke that even $7,200,000 make a difference. Number two, Emperor Alexander II abolished serfdom 5 years prior to the sale, and to make this reform work, he was desperate for funding. Theory 3. In 1852, first gold is discovered in Alaska. The border is constantly violated by neighboring gold seekers. There are only 2,500 Russians living there at the time, and they have no means to protect themselves. Russia is rich with Siberia, and handling tiny Alaska so far away just seems unreasonable. Theory 4. Russia starts building its railway system. Remember what we said about Grand Duke Konstantin meeting Napoleon III? Well, for Russian stocks to trade on the Parisian exchange, Russia had to buy French stocks in return. Thanks to a recent discovery by a Russian historian Alexander Petrov, this last route may just be the most realistic one. Selling faraway land to modernize the economy. A document from 1868 supports this idea. For Russian territories in North America conceded to the North American states, received 11,362,481 rubles, the equivalent of $7,200,000. Spent abroad on railway equipment, 10,972,238 rubles. It's hard to imagine Russia spending so much given it produces timber and steel, but one might believe that this money was an entry fee onto the European Stock Exchange. The secrecy of the initial deal and the following Alaska gold rush all played in favor of multiple conspiracy theories, leading to Russia gaining Alaska back.
Зачем вам Аляска?
There are at least 6 documents, all open source, proving that the deal was legitimate. We will leave links to these documents in the video's description for you. A ratification from the Russian Empire signed by Alexander II and then Foreign Minister Gorchakov. A ratification from the US side, signed by Andrew Johnson and Secretary of State William H. Seward. Both documents were ratified by parliaments of both countries and are listed in official statutes. There was also a check for $7,200,000 issued in the name of Baron Edward de Stokel. There is also a treasury document. Although the word Alaska is written somehow outside of the frame, as if it's a comment from a clerk, it's pretty transparent. Treaty with Russia, dated March 30th, 1867, could only mean one thing: the legal sale of Russia's colony to the US. So yeah, the deal was real, and this means there's no way for Russia to lay claims on its former North American colony. 30 years after the deal, Alaska will be swept by a gold rush worth $17 billion. The deal's main mastermind, Grand Duke Konstantin Nikolaevich, did not live to see that the money that his motherland needed so much was right there all the time. He died before the gold rush in 1892. Note that the Grand Duke was notorious for his love of speculation on the stock exchange. He probably had the answers as to why the Russian-American stock grew in value fourfold in just 7 months after the sale was announced, and who made a fortune from it.